London calling, ladies and gentlemen. WWE answered. Is WrestleMania coming to London, England? That is the big question we're going to talk about here today. Of course, as well as that, it's a live Q&A format to be answering all your questions in the wrestling community on WWE, AEW, and much, much more. Fingers crossed there, NXT Steve. What are your thoughts with this? Obviously, Triple H and Nick Khan went over to London. They meet Said Khan as well in London. We've had some video packages as well that promoted this. Is WrestleMania going outside the US, outside of North America for the first time, and is it coming to England?
Possibly. There are a few very major deciding factors as to why it may happen. One is the weather, because currently at that time of the year when they hold Mania, it's not the greatest over here, and I imagine it will be a torrential downpour, and we'll all get a little bit wet. But otherwise, I know that obviously, like, next year's Mania gets pushed back a little bit further, maybe the year after that. I think if it's going to happen, you're looking at a minimum 3 years before it happens. So not next year. You're looking at 2027, I reckon, by the earliest we would get it. Because obviously, what's the place? It's not Cleveland, is it? Is it Cleveland that's got the Rumble, Mania, and a SummerSlam guaranteed?
Indianapolis have got
Indianapolis.
That.
So I imagine they'll get their one before us as well. So yeah, I'm imagining like at least 2027 early. But to be fair, that's good because it gives me enough time to save up for a ticket, because I imagine they're going to be really expensive.
Yeah, to be honest, I imagine that as well. So yeah. I'm not complaining. Obviously, it's Vegas next year. Obviously, we do know that's confirmed for WrestleMania next year. Like you say, Indianapolis could be a favourite for the year after. Minnesota have been sniffing around, but look to have got themselves, I believe they've got themselves a SummerSlam already linked in for 2026, which will be the first two-night SummerSlam. So, I mean, the door is open for London. Obviously, to have the meeting with the London mayor does give you a promising sign. That's what I would say. But obviously, said Triple H actually said in an interview, the weather is one of those things that's a factor. So I'm pretty much looking to bring a big event over to the United Kingdom. That's what I think was the statement there. So I suppose SummerSlam could be something that could be on the table. Obviously, SummerSlam was in England before at Wembley Stadium back in 1992. Obviously, other big shows like the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series. I mean, if you're going to do that, you might as well do WrestleMania. I mean, for me, all I'm going to say is that if there's enough years in possibility, could we get a roof done? I mean, obviously, we know Cardiff is somewhere that has the roof facility, but the London mayor is going to want it in London. So, I mean, is that a facility that could be thrown in onto a Wembley? Or will it have to be done?
The roof on Wembley already closes about 3/4 of the way.
Okay.
Like, it partially closes anyway, so you can cover a lot of it already. Whether they just throw, like, I don't know, a retracting, like almost like if you've got a soft top car, really. Do you know what I mean? And they can build a retractable roof to cover the extra over the small little bit that's still open. I don't know. It's a possibility, but that's why I reckon it's some time off, just on the basis that, like, if they want to start pushing Mania back more towards sort of a little bit later in the year, just to make it a bit more exciting, because they've even said themselves that they're trying to move Mania just so that it's more accessible to other places in the United States to be hosted, which is always a good thing as well. But it just gives us a couple of years to try and work out all these, all the small details, like, can we sort out a roof for Wembley? Can we guarantee it's going to be decent weather? Because, I mean, I think next year's Mania is like the middle of April. The year after that, you'd be possibly looking at the end of April. So that's already a month gone back. I mean, middle of May probably still won't even be great for us either. Do you know what I mean? I think we'd be looking, if it was to do it another 2 weeks after that, you'd be looking at start of June, really. But it's fingers crossed. I mean, worst case scenario, especially if SummerSlam's going to go to 2 nights, I think if they was to do a SummerSlam at Wembley, do you know what I mean? And it's after they start doing the 2-night events. I think that would be just as good. But, dude, I mean, if we can get a WrestleMania, it's one of those things that I just want to do. I just want to go to WrestleMania and say I've done it. I don't really want to have to pay for flights, accommodation to go all the way to the States or Canada to do one. If I can have one on my doorstep, then, do you know what I mean? I'm all for it. And yeah, like I said, just to go back on the point of the tickets, I know what they normally do when they bring a pay-per-view to the UK for the last couple of years is that you have to buy a ticket for SmackDown and the pay-per-view just so then that both events sell out. With WrestleMania, kind of won't be the same, because I imagine if it's held at Wembley, they've got Wembley Arena next door, which is where they could hold Raw, SmackDown, the NXT pay-per-view. If they were to go like full board and do everything over here, they wouldn't necessarily price you out of a ticket, because they wouldn't be like, oh, you have to buy a ticket for all 4 events, because Wembley Arena only holds about 25,000 people compared to Wembley, which can do about 80 to 90,000. So you won't be just forced to buy, oh, here's a ticket, but you have to buy one for SmackDown, Raw, WrestleMania, and NXT, Hall of Fame. You have to buy one for the whole weekend. You probably can do that. They probably will sell that package, but because it's 90,000 seats, you can just get a ticket for WrestleMania, hopefully.
Yeah, I would imagine you could. Like you said, they usually have the different tiers of packages when it comes to WrestleMania, what you can and can't do depending where they are in the States. Obviously, can't say I've looked this up many times before, but I'm like you. It's a bucket list. It's a dream. It's something definitely I'd love to see and hope happens. And obviously, if it does come to the UK, it definitely makes it more accessible, I would say. Just logistics and stuff, being on the other side of the world, it's not just easy to hop on a plane to go over to the States, but although a lot of people do it year in and year out for a lot of those big shows, a number of people in our community do that as well. So credit to those people that are able to go and do that. But what I would say to you is, obviously, with just as a an outside sort of idea, WWE has never gone outside of North America with WrestleMania. We've seen a lot of, when they do now the premium live events, the B show premium live events, if you will, they go to the time zones that suit those countries. For example, when it comes to London, we get it when it comes to more suitable for our time, and the Americans have to watch it early afternoon. Same with the Saudi shows, same for wherever they've gone. What happens when it's WrestleMania, though? It's the biggest show of the year. Can you see a 9 a.m. start for WrestleMania in the Pacific time of America? Or do you think there is a possibility that the UK may have to stay up late to watch WrestleMania? Because I believe with UFC, they have done that in the past, where it's actually catered to more American audiences, even when it's traveled over to the UK. So would that be a case, as the fact that it's under the same banner of Endeavor, that WrestleMania could be a later start for us in the UK, so it suits all parties around the world?
It's possible, but the only problem you've got is, obviously, I mean, over here we obviously have this things with live shows, especially around Wembley, that they're not allowed to go on past a certain time, because obviously there are people that genuinely do live near Wembley Arena. So noise and stuff, especially if it's WrestleMania, they're going to want to have fireworks and stuff go off. I imagine that they can't do them past a certain time anyway. So there are going to be time restrictions regardless. I mean, the only other way you could get around it, I mean, I find this very hard to believe they wouldn't do it, is if they didn't do it at Wembley and they did it at, for instance, West Ham's football ground. Like, West Ham's football ground is a prime stadium event to do something at, because its location and its travel infrastructure is built to, like, imagine when West Ham play there every week, they have a travel infrastructure there that's built for having 60-odd thousand people turn up every week for a football game. And Wembley, I know from previous visits, is an absolute nightmare to get out of. Like, you probably had the same experience when you left All In. Like,
I did.
There's only one way out. There's only one train station, and it's a complete nightmare. And obviously, if you want to get, for instance, an Uber or a cab or a taxi, do you know what I mean? It's always silly expensive. Whereas with West Ham, there's a plethora of trains and train stations. Like, there's like 2 or 3 train stations that you can go from. There's different lines. You're not all resorted to trying to get on the same train to go in the same direction. There's public transport there, like buses and stuff, for example. So West Ham's would be an ideal second, like a backup almost. But like I said, I think with it being WrestleMania, they're going to want to go for Wembley. But yeah, back to the original point, I think, like we said, with noise restrictions and stuff, because it's the same whenever people do gigs like Taylor Swift when she had a show at Wembley, and other people, they can't perform past a certain time of night just because of noise restrictions. And like I said, WrestleMania is going to have pyro and fireworks and stuff, and you can't put them on past sort of like maybe 10:30 at night, maybe not even probably later than that. And if you're going to have a 3-4 hour show, you're still going to be looking at, I don't know, say 6 or 7 o'clock start, and I mean, even for East Coast, that's going to be midday-ish. So I think unfortunately the West Coast is going to have to deal with a 9 o'clock start for WrestleMania if it ever happens.
We'll have to wait and see if it does or doesn't. I mean, like you raised some brilliant points there, but also the idea of alternative locations as well. Eric Douglas got a fantastic question. I want to come to that in a couple of minutes' time, but I just want to throw my 2 cents on this because obviously you can't help but get a little bit overexcited the idea that this prospect can happen, and that's the thing. As a UK fan, the idea of this, there is easiness to get carried away of thinking, dare I say it, and as a football soccer fan would think it's coming home, and that's what we would all be thinking, that we would be getting WrestleMania. It would be an amazing experience to all be a part of. However, a part of me just can't help but feel if this is a little bit of a publicity stunt, because obviously if WrestleMania was ever to go outside of the United States, do you think the UK would be the only place in town that's willing to bid for that? You just look at the places that WWE has been to over the last couple of years. They've been to France. They obviously continuously go to Saudi Arabia, been to Puerto Rico and other different places. I imagine a lot of people would want to see an experiment, see if they can get a WrestleMania as well. And I just wonder if this is, open negotiations with London here. If a deal is not set in place, I wonder if other people will come calling and saying, actually, if you're thinking about London, why not consider here? We can offer you this, this, and this, and we're willing to put that money on the table as well.
Yeah, I mean, there is always the worry about that. But I think because it's the first time they've ever traveled outside of North America, if you're going to go anywhere, it's probably your second biggest fan base is the UK. And obviously because it's hotly connected to most of Europe, and like it only takes a couple of hours to get from basically anywhere in Europe to the UK, the chances of getting more European fans to visit and do all the travel and like the boost in the economy just from the travel aspect of having loads of people come over will be massive. I mean, don't get me wrong, Saudi Arabia probably would be, if it's not going to be London, it's probably going to be Saudi Arabia because they can throw silly money at it and say that we'll have it. My only worry is that I think I've never been a fan of the crowds in Saudi because don't get me wrong, they're not as, I don't think they're as enthusiastic as what you get from a European or an American or a Canadian crowd. I think that we're just proper crazy hardcore fans, and I think the Saudis just I don't know, like it's kind of just a weird one. But I think like if you're going to test the waters, the safest place to go where you can guarantee it's going to sell out is the UK. I mean, you probably could do, for instance, Paris. Like I know the Paris PSG stadium, the Parc des Princes, or whatever it's called. They're equally as big a stadium, but same logistical problem. Doesn't have a roof. There's not a lot of places in Europe where you've got a stadium that big that can have a roof in case of like weather is going to be the biggest problem with this show. Because if it pours down with rain, it's just like we obviously remember WrestleMania after pandemic, where it rained for the first hour and it was delayed. That's going to be the biggest problem ultimately. But there's not a lot of places in Europe that will be able to stop that. But yeah, like I said, I think the best place to test it is one of the most easily accessible places to the rest of Europe is the UK.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And hey, we're going to move on to other topics now. But all I'm going to say is that I wholeheartedly agree with what you say, and I've got a good feeling. I'm hoping that this is not just a pipe dream. The fact that they delivered this much to even put video packages out afterwards makes me feel like that even if it's not WrestleMania, I think a big show is coming to the UK. And if it's not WrestleMania, of course I'd want the Rumble, but I wouldn't argue against any of the big shows. To be fair, SummerSlam would be awesome as well, especially as the fact that SummerSlam was in the UK previously, of course, in 1992. And of course, we're in SummerSlam season now, so we've got the hype for the hottest show of the summer. But Eric Douglas has got a great question for us. I'm going to try and get some questions now. So if you got questions, throw them in the comments. It's a good time to get involved. We will answer all wrestling related questions. We've got a couple of topics of our own we want to discuss. If you don't bring them up, we'll go for probably, as long as you keep them coming in, I would say, up to this point. But Eric Douglas has got a question for us. It says, if WWE goes to England, would it hurt AEW's relationship with Wembley? It's a fantastic question, that one.
I don't think so, but I think that what it will do is it will stop AEW from doing Wembley. I think they will still do All In once a year, but they will choose the O2, which I think is the biggest. It's the biggest indoor. It's the biggest arena outside of a stadium in the UK. It holds about 25,000. it will guaranteed to sell out because like at the minute, All In still hasn't sold out. They are charging ridiculous prices for some of the tickets as well. Like I've seen floor seats are going for about £1,500, and I think that's extortionate for an AEW show. Like, don't get me wrong, I know it's a spectacle, but floor seats for £1,500, I just think is ridiculous. Especially like when you are essentially the second biggest wrestling company. I know it's probably not down to AEW. It's probably more the UK and how much they're having to pay for Wembley or however the logistics work of it, but. I think that because I guarantee you now, if the UK got WrestleMania, it would sell out instantly. There would be not instantly, but I guarantee it would sell out. It would be a full house capacity because it's something we don't get ever, or we've never had. Whereas All In is every year. You can buy I went to All In last year. I didn't know it was coming back until after the show, but I'm not going this year. And I think if we was to get WrestleMania, I don't think we'd get another one for a very long time. And it's a case of like a shot in the dark. This is a one-time only thing for a WrestleMania. And I think if WWE sells out Wembley, AEW are just going to be like, we can't compete with that. And I think they will just force them to end up going to a smaller venue.
A lot of great points there. I mean, like for example, what you just said, they were All In last year. Like I felt the same. Was like, when are we going to get this again? I feel like this, you can't miss it. Like it was finding a way to go. I always felt like I'm not going to be able to make my way there because I don't live in the UK either. So it's always extra expenses, extra travel and stuff like that. And obviously at the time was work commitments, but I found my path, I found my way, and I got there and I was like, brilliant. I made it here. And then at the end of the show, I was like, we'll do it the next year. And it's like, oh, okay. This is maybe going to be a yearly thing. And I thought to myself the same thing of like, okay, this year it's come along. And although I'm starting to see the match card, the sort of feelings coming in, like, oh, it would be amazing. But I'm the same as you. I'm not going to be going this year. It's going to be, watch it from the sofa, and it's going to be nice to see it from home. It was great to experience it live last year, and there's always another year if they do it again. But Eric's question there, would it harm the relationship? It could potentially. I just think the fact is that as NXT said, they would probably move to somewhere else. An arena show could be what they could do. Craven Cottage could be another spot as well, because the Khans have got investment in Fulham Football Club. So that could certainly be a place that they could do it as well. They could certainly fill a lot of seats in that stadium as well. So they've certainly got options. But obviously WWE would have probably the bragging right of the fact that London paid WWE to come here, where AEW took a shot at something and said, we're going all in and we expect to try and sell out as best as we can. So I think that's where a lot of the friction is going to come from it. But hey, we've mentioned all in there. Oh, go on, you carry on, my friend.
Just to add quickly, that the second that AEW booked Wembley, I think WWE kind of went like, we need to smash that out of the park and get rid of that as a record. Do you know what I mean? That can't. And obviously Triple H is in his record-breaking phase, and he's going to be like, I don't want another company holding a record that we can smash and complete. And you got to remember, WrestleMania is 2 nights, so their technical Wembley attendance will be doubled. So it won't be 90,000; it will be 180,000 for 2 nights. So it's going to be one of them stupid things that they do. But yeah, it's kind of like, it's just going to be a case of my dog's bigger than your dog kind of thing. It's going to be weird, man. But just to add, back onto the point about ticket prices, my seat from last year, I've just had a quick look. So a seat in the same section is double what I paid last year for All In. And I think, what's my incentive to go if the ticket price is double the amount?
They'll continue to do so as well, and that's the thing. As things, and we see it with WWE shows. They go around the world. They're getting more and more expensive as they go around, because it feels like a once in a lifetime opportunity when they do it. You got to sort of bite the cherry and go for it if you're going to go. And obviously, we went to All In last year, so that same incentive isn't there this year. That's just what it comes down to, especially when the prices hike up that much higher. But it should be fun, should be special, and obviously we mentioned All In as we're open field. People want to put more questions in, they can do. If not, we will discuss. What are your thoughts with the All-In card so far? Obviously, we've got the likes of Swerve Strickland defending the AEW World Championship against Bryan Danielson. We've also got Toni Storm defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Mariah May after their little split up there. We've got confirmed the TBS Championship, Mercedes Moné going against Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Of course, Mercedes now got Camille, of course, as her bodyguard moving forward. Could that open the door to a Jamie Hayter return? I'm certainly hopeful it may do. What are your thoughts with the card that we're seeing so far then for All In at this moment?
I mean, depending on what happens with Bryan Danielson, he's obviously supposed to be retired now. That kind of, unless he wins it, that's kind of a pointless match to me, because the guy's contract is up, and he's basically said he's retiring. So unless he wins, which is publicly stated, I think he's publicly stated that he doesn't want the world title. So this kind of seems like a bit of a silly booking to me. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Hangman Page has kind of come back, and you would think that Hangman Page would have been the right booking for this show. I don't know. But as for the rest of the card, Tony Storm, Ryan May, that's probably going to be a great match. There's probably going to be loads on the line with that. MJF versus Will Ospreay. Hopefully next year Ospreay is in the main event. He'll get there eventually, I'm sure, if they end up doing Wembley again next year. Mercedes Moné, Britt Baker. Honestly, I'm just glad to see Britt Baker back on TV and wrestling. I think that's one thing I've missed the most. And Jack Perry versus Darby Allin for the TNT title. I'm sure that's just going to have so much drama in it. And there's probably going to be callbacks to last year's show and everything like that. It's getting there. They're 5 solid matches. Don't be wrong, Swerve Bryan Danielson is going to be a killer match. But I'm worried that it's going to be like last year, and it was a 4 or 5 hour slugfest to just get through the show. But it's getting there. Honestly, if you used to say to me, would I prefer to have gone this year or last year? I'm glad I went last year. At the minute, in terms of the match card, because I think the match card last year just had a little bit of everything at the minute, and I think that's what this year's one is lacking. It's kind of, we've got 5 matches confirmed, and they're all one-on-ones. Nothing to do with tag titles, nothing to do with trios titles, nothing to do with street fights, stadium stampedes, nothing yet. So at the minute, last year's card is winning for me in terms of variety, but this year's, it should be a lot better in terms, not a lot better, but the quality of matches should be elevated to more than what last year's were.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm obviously very grateful for last year. I think the card looks good so far. Like you say, we've got 5 matches in the 5 solid matches. It depends what we're going to get for the rest of the card. I have a feeling for additional matches on top of those 5 there. I think Okada versus Hangman could be something that it looked like it was being teased with everything that was going on with Blood and Guts, which we want to talk about Blood and Guts. We'll do that in a couple of seconds' time. I think that could be a match that could be built from that. And obviously, the Acclaimed are after those tag team championships with the Young Bucks. Now, I know you've heard a rumor from somewhere that the Grizzled Young Veterans could be added into the mix, which would be fantastic for them. UK tag team as well on that sort of showcase at Wembley Stadium would be awesome to see. But I do feel the story is the Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed, so I personally would carry on with that, unless you're going to take GYV out at Wembley and carry on with the Bucks versus the Acclaimed All Out, which, fun enough, is 1 week later. But yeah, any additional thoughts with All In? Maybe some of the things you've heard, we can sort of shoot through them.
The only other things I've heard, say apart from GYV challenging for the tag team titles, there's rumors of Davey Boy Smith managing Will Ospreay, which seems a bit weird to me. Like, I don't understand that logic. I mean, I know obviously Ospreay's whole booking in a minute is like a crisis of confidence, and like obviously using a move that he didn't want to do a move against MJF that he obviously stopped doing. I don't know, like that seems a bit weird. Jamie Hayter is set to return. I think that's a great shout. I can't wait for that one if that one comes true as well. I'm trying to think now. My mind's gone completely blank. There was 2 more. I'll let you talk about those 2 while I just find out what the other ones were quickly.
Well, I believe you mentioned about Danielson potentially could be one that could be winning. And do you know what? I think that could be a possibility, because although Bryan Danielson's contract is set to expire this upcoming week, it feels like it's a handshake agreement that he's going to go and do the Wembley show. But from what I'd heard, and I can't remember the source, so I'm not going to throw a source out there, but I heard it's a take it with a pinch of salt, is that Danielson could continue on to Wrestle Dream, which I believe is going to be in Seattle, Washington, which is where I think Danielson is residing from. So I think that's where he wants to finish off at. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if he won the title at All In and drop the title at Wrestle Dream. That's what I could see potentially happening. That way, it's almost like a thank you for everything you've done over the last 3 years, and you go out on top rather than sort of go out and you tried to go to the top. We didn't quite get the job done. I mean, Danielson's never won the title in AEW, so if he's going to do it, it does feel like now would be the perfect time. But be interested to see how it will all play out. There is a question that's come in, so I'm going to take it in now. Wrestling Shane, I believe, it says, personally, I think Damian Priest should retain at SummerSlam against Gunther. Now, when it's Steve, I give some of my feelings on this on the Q&A the other day. I'm happy to share those with you if you haven't heard them already, but I want to get your point of view on this first. Should Priest retain at SummerSlam, or should there be a new champion in the Ring General?
I think he should retain as well. I think a win over Gunther via interference as per usual, because that's Damian Priest's story. I think it makes a lot more sense, and I think they then do the rematch in Bash where Gunther then wins the title, which makes a hell of a lot more sense. You will get a much bigger pop when Gunther wins. Obviously, it's kind of like wrestling on home turf, and Gunther, like I said, it will be a complete heel face switch dynamic because of the crowd. But I think there's loads more to come out of it story-wise involving the Judgment Day as well, if Priest retains as well. I think there is a lot. I reckon this SummerSlam match is going to have a lot to play into the next 3-4 weeks involving the Judgment Day between like then and Bash in Berlin.
Could even be months, because I agree with everything you just said, and I agree with the comment as well. I think Priest should retain, and my reasoning for it is because of the fact, like you say, a screw finish leads over to Bash in Berlin, but also Priest made a promise to Seth freaking Rollins, said, look, you know, that's I'll get through Gunther, you get another match. Well, if he says it and he loses anyway, Seth can go for Gunther, but it just kind of feels like you can play that over. But the other thing is as well, and I've said this for a little while, and we've said it on the show for a little while, that we think Judgment Day is going to obviously have a new look to the group. We're going to probably have like Priest and Rhea kicked out. I think it's going to happen on the same night. Now, I think you could potentially do the Dominic screws Rhea at SummerSlam on the biggest stage possible and aligns with Liv Morgan. I think it'd make more sense to actually just Dom accidentally screw up at SummerSlam. Let the drama play out a few more weeks. Let it go a bit more. Dom screwed up, and then he's got to get back into Rhea's good books again. So I'm going to get it right next time, and probably been told to stay to the back. He's not to get involved in the next match, just Rhea versus Liv. But then the next show, if it's Bash in Berlin or Bad Blood, whenever they redo it afterwards, that's the time you pull the trigger. And then Rhea's first kicked out of the group, and Damien then could be like, even on the same show, like, guys, what are you doing? Like, I don't know about what you're doing with Liv. Look, guys, it's okay. You have to trust us, and don't worry, big man, we got your back. And that's when they all screw Priest out of the world title, and Gunther wins the title at Bash in Berlin. That's for me what I'd quite like to see personally, how it should all play out. So I agree, Priest should retain at SummerSlam, but it is delaying the inevitable when Gunther wins that title.
I mean, don't get me wrong, for me there's still the whole Liv Morgan Finn Balor dynamic as well, and maybe it's a case of that Dom and Rhea get kicked. No, I don't know, like there's so many ways it can go, and Balor versus Priest just seems like a match that needs to happen as well. And obviously that doesn't really kind of work unless Priest is still champion. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be real. I'm so invested in this story. It's so stupid. It's unreal. But yeah, I mean, looking at it, you could easily just kick Priest and Rhea out of the group, and Dom, like Liv, gets recruited, and it's like, because everyone's seen for weeks that Finn's just been playing like the manipulation game, and like, what was it last week on Raw when they all split up to look for Jey Uso, and it's kind of like Finn tells him, you go that way and I'll go this way. He knew Liv Morgan was down there. I'm telling you, he's such a manipulator, and it's it's exciting. And at this present minute, I couldn't give a reason or how or why that they do it, but you can see it building. Liv and Rhea and Priest are just kind of like the two oddities in the Judgment Day now. Like they seem like the Rhea's first week back, and when she was talking with Priest, it was so nice, so babyface the way she was talking to him. And the way Priest has obviously been acting about he doesn't need the Judgment Day. They're just really outcasting themselves, and I just cannot wait for the implosion that happens with this group, and we get, I don't know, Judgment Day Wolfpack. Do you know what I mean? I'm super excited for it.
Feels that that could be the destination. I wouldn't be surprised if Priest and Rhea kicked out. The new group is Liv, Dom, Finn, like you say, Finn and Liv are the ones that have made this all together. Dom's seen the light in his eyes to go with Liv. JD McDonough's there with the tag team titles. Carlito's not been allowed to be a part of the group, becomes part of the group. So that's your new Judgment Day. Yeah. Their new opponents would be Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley. Jey Uso's been looking for Rhea Ripley's number, so we yeet him into this for the time being. Sami Zayn as well. Jey Uso and Sami Zayn now are perfect to go for those tag team titles. If Sami loses the IC title at SummerSlam, frees him up there to win those tag team titles. Is there a possibility, by the way? And we're getting loads of questions in now, so we're going to catch up with your comments in a minute. I'm really sorry. We're going right deep in on this one. Is there a chance here that Jey and Sami eventually win those tag team titles? The Bloodline win the tag team titles? And this year's Survivor Series goes to a little bit back to Raw versus SmackDown, and that's how we get Jey and Sami in this Bloodline stuff.
Oh, your brain is working overdrive here, and I'm loving it. Yeah, man. I mean, it kind of just makes sense, and it all falls into place. And I mean, don't get me wrong, even just the story of Sami and Jey winning the tag team titles after everything they went through when they were part of the Bloodline almost feels like it has to happen. I mean, even with that, you can tie in the return of Jimmy. Do you know what I mean? And somehow you can work that into the story as well, dude. Again, yeah, it's just all there. It's whether it goes that way. I mean, obviously, all IWC ever does is fan theory, like what's going to happen in wrestling. But dude, it sounds like that's what should happen. And then, like, dude, even the possibility of Solo winning the world title, I think is if you'd have asked me after Mania, I'd have been like, nah, Solo ain't winning that title. But I think the way that it's gone so far, even Solo winning that world title is a possibility now.
It could happen. We're going to hold it, though, till Tuesday. Our predictions for SummerSlam, I'm going to say it now on this channel, Tuesday. Do not miss it. 7 matches, and we've got a lot to say on all of those matches. We've got a little bit in detail on some bits tonight, but we'll give you the full dirt on Tuesday. Do not miss it. Speaking then, Roger's asking, is Rhea Ripley a babyface or a heel? Babyface all the way at this point, but she's a badass babyface, the best kind.
Yeah, she's like she's the heel done. She's got the baby pop version of what Roman's gonna get when he returns. And yeah, when Rhea is inevitably screwed out of that world title. Well, that early prediction from me, I think that's what's probably going to happen. I think Rhea's going to go the complete babyface route, and yeah, man, she's going to be completely baby facing up and loving it. And the thing is you can't really. She's kind of like the Undertaker in some aspects. Like, she'll still be the same character and persona, but she just like it's just going to be the same Rhea, but just everyone's going to love her.
Absolutely. Absolutely, indeed. TNA question for us from Zane. Do you trust the system in TNA? Absolutely not. They just kicked out Moose, haven't they?
Exactly. Why would you trust anyone that kicked you out? I mean, they lost the tag team titles. Moose lost the world title, and yet they kicked Moose out. And I was like, oh, sure. Screwy finish. I don't know. It's well, you get why they did it, but
yeah. In answer though, no, we don't trust in the system.
No, don't trust them.
We give a big answer to this question earlier. Well, actually, let's rephrase that. We gave a big discussion earlier on about WrestleMania potentially coming to London. Now it's time for just a yes or no answer. Commit. Will London get WrestleMania?
Yes.
Yeet. Yes, I think it will happen. I don't know. I'm not convinced, but I'm going to say yes, just for you to answer the question. And
just because I want it to happen, just so I can go. Like I said, I'm starting to save money now because I want a really good seat if I do go.
There you go. There you go. A man that's prepared there for you. I'll start preparing at some point. Roger says, what match would make you want to go to All In at Wembley this year? So I guess it doesn't have. If you could put a match together, it doesn't have to be one that could be added to the card. It could be a match that you think they should have done this, and then I would have punched my ticket and I'd have went.
Oh, I don't know. I found the other one I remembered as well, by the way, is Dijak is supposed to be debuting there. The most controversial free agent in the minute with some of the stuff he's been coming out with.
Interesting.
Oh, I don't know, because, like I said, most of the talent you want to see is already on the card. I think like I said, I think if you wanted a match that was like, that has the story, has the ability to be a great wrestling match, I would have booked Hangman versus Swerve. I think that's a match that needs to be done.
It was a match I thought was going to happen, and I would have been all in for that match and all in favour of that decision. The match, if you said what match would make you want to go to Wembley at All In, so I'm changing the match card by doing this to say I would commit. It would have been, if Forbidden Door never happened, Swerve versus Ospreay, of the belief that Ospreay was winning the world title. Yeah. To believe that Ospreay from the UK would win the AEW World Championship in the main event, I would have been sitting there thinking, I need to go to this show. That would have been the thing that would have done it for me. However, that's not the case, and given the match card that they have, I think it's a solid match card so far. And not as if I wouldn't want to go. It's just this year I'm choosing not to.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm choosing not to, and I'm gonna enjoy it from home this year. And I'm like, I didn't have too bad of a journey getting home last year, but I think this year I'm just gonna sit in the comfort of my own home, watch it at a normal, leisurely time, and just enjoy it, man.
It took me an hour to get on the train. An hour.
Luckily enough, I run out of the stadium. As soon as that bell went for the final match, I ran out of that stadium. I was on a train within 10 minutes. I was home within about 35 minutes. So I was home by before you'd even got on the train. That's how stupid Wembley is, by the way. And the other thing as well, just to go back to the West Ham point I made about Wembley, they obviously like to do the big pop-up store. They're right on one of the biggest shopping centres in the country, Westfield, that normally has one or two empty units. They could easily do the pop-up store in Westfield Shopping Centre as well. I'm really trying to manifest this Wembley or London-based WrestleMania.
I'm more hearing, the more I'm sold. So if you're watching, just listen to what's being said right here. It's making a lot of sense to do WrestleMania in London. Zane asking, I'm looking forward to Nick Nemeth versus Mustafa Ali for the TNA World Title. For me, that's a tasty sounding match if you ask me.
Yes and no. Yes, because I want to see it. No, because Ali's not going to win it.
You make valid points there. You make valid points indeed. That's an early TNA prediction for you there with that one. Sid says, who do you think will be Camille's first match and first feud? And who do you think will... Okay, I think it's pretty much said it twice by accident. But yeah, so who do you think will be the first match and first feud? Well, I mean, if I had to answer this, we said this earlier on, obviously Camille now is the bodyguard and we're lined with Mercedes Moné. So I don't know necessarily about a first match with that case, but first feud for sure would be Britt Baker, who would need backup, which I would assume would be a returning Jamie Hayter. So I imagine that'd be the first feud. Wouldn't be surprised if Camille would probably have a squash match or two to kick things off in AEW, but you'd feel probably the first proper match she may have is on the build here to All In against Britt Baker as well.
Yeah, my only worry is that AEW will rush it and it'll be an All Out the following week.
Quite likely. They literally have to book a card within one Dynamite and one Collision, so I think there's a possibility that what happens at All In could fall out to All Out, and hey, maybe we wouldn't be surprised if that was to go down. Zane asks, will All In get 90,000 people in? I don't think so this year. They didn't last year, so I don't think they will this year.
No, I don't think the card is as good so far as last year's, and the tickets are almost double in price at the minute, so unless within, say, the last 4 weeks, they go on a complete price cut and start basically giving them tickets away, I don't reckon it'll sell out.
No. Let's talk about Blood and Guts, because I know it's the topic you want to talk about this week. Obviously, first off, did you enjoy the match? And B, I know you really want to talk about that chair shot.
I did enjoy the match up until that chair shot, funnily enough, because that chair shot for me just changed my whole outlook, enjoyment, and possibilities with the end of the match. Like, I didn't watch Dynamite live to catch them. I watched, obviously, the YouTube highlight, which is about 20 odd minutes long, whatever. It catches most of the match. And when Briscoe hits that chair shot, my first initial thought is why? Why in 2024 are we doing headshots with chairs? It's so stupid. And I know a lot of people have critiqued it. I obviously have no place to, like, do you know what I mean? I've got no place to sit there and complain about it. Like, I'm just a guy who, on a small internet-based community, talks about, like, shitty decisions, excuse my French, but it's such a stupid thing to do. I mean, even Corey Graves summed it up and I know that post got deleted, but it's like, it's just not worth it. And then the problem was as well, once it happened, and then Darby pulls out the petrol can, for a split second, I genuinely thought, my God, they're going to genuinely light this man on fire. And it's going to be like we're burning witches at the stake. Like, honestly, I was like, if they're doing a chair shot, why wouldn't they set a man on fire? Like, and the thing as well that from the match I took was Matt Jackson talking to Mark Briscoe after he'd done the chair shot. And to me, it even looked like Matt, well, I think it was Matt, he was like seriously annoyed about him doing that chair shot. It's just so stupid, man. Like, dude, we've been through lawsuits and court cases, and we've seen worse things happen in real life because of stuff like this, man. It's not needed nowadays. Like, it's just so stupid, man. Like, and honestly, it spoiled the match, like, because I enjoyed it, even if it weren't the best blood and guts match. I still found it highly entertaining. Swerve having to cut himself into the cage, I thought was like, I just thought it was just great the way he was handcuffed to it. The bump that one of the Acclaim take off the top of the cage and through the 4 ladders, I thought it was great. It's entertaining, but that chair shot, dude, just seriously uncalled for nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I enjoy the blood and guts match. I think it was fine. I think they have done better ones up until this point. I felt this was the weakest one they'd done, but I still thought it was enjoyable. However, I did feel like the end of that match, like you said, from the chair shot onwards to the head, first of all, just because it's unnecessary. Like, we know the damage it can do. Obviously, the all clear has been given. I don't know whose decision it was. I mean, it could have been Mark's, Briscoe to do it, but it could have been Jack Perry as well. Jack Perry's been quite open of wanting to do crazy stuff in AEW. If you listen to the CM Punk stuff that was banding around this time last year, which has led to a lot of heat onwards afterwards. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone's gone with that decision and said do it, and they've done it. And I agree. It takes some joy because it takes you out of the moment. The suspense of disbelief. You're enjoying this entertainment, but all of a sudden you have the moment go, I know what this can lead to, and all of a sudden you start thinking about the real consequences. It takes you out of the enjoyment element, and then, like you said, a couple of seconds later, when look, it's a no-win finish. By the way, when you do something like that, you're either going to light a man on fire, or they all sort of cowardly give up, and it's very going out on a whimper. The match is meant to be blood and guts. You're promoting it like it's something that's like, it is war, if you know what I mean. It's like, it is war game. You know what I mean? It's, we do this to the finish, and it's kind of like someone just saying, no, we'll give up, we'll give you what you want. It's a very lame finish. And for me, I am not a fan of the idea of fire, setting people on fire. I mean, I think Jack Perry was set on fire at the Anarchy in a rematch they did earlier this year. So it's not as if something hasn't been through before. Yeah. So I just felt to myself it was a bit unnecessary. But hey, it's like you say, we're not judged really to comment. We're just two people with opinions on a microphone with some cameras, and somehow I've been allowed on a platform like YouTube.
For me, I think the most important thing is it didn't add anything to the match.
No,
all it did was just cause controversy. Like, even if they'd done some sort of story beat, like, from as far as I know, Mark Briscoe and Jack Perry have got no sort of real storyline heat going into the match. So there's no necessary point for it to happen. Like, even if it was Swerve and Hangman, sure, I can understand it. There's history in that. There's a story to tell with that. But it just didn't add anything of context to the rest of the match as well. So for me, not only does it not add any context in terms of a storyline, but it's so stupid that they shouldn't have even been doing it in terms of a wrestling match. So for me, it's a lose-lose situation.
Completely agree. 100% agree. So all in all, we don't usually do this, like, for just random matches that happen through the week, but as it's a special match that only happens once a year, what's your star rating for Blood and Guts this year?
Dude,
just the Blood and Guts match itself.
So dud.
Oh, full-on dud.
Dud, bro. The match completely ruined. The finish completely ruins the match for me. Because, like I said, I enjoyed it. If you take, all right, let me put it in a better way. If you'd done everything up to that chair shot, I'd probably say a 3. Thought it was highly entertaining. Nothing really out of the normal of what we've had before. Here you go. You like this one? It's a bang average blood and guts match. That's basically what it was, right? But then when you add those last 2 elements in, the chair shot alone just completely ruins it for me. So I'm going to say dud.
I mean, I took points off of it, but I didn't go all the way down to dub. But maybe that's the sensible thing to do, because that's the sort of message that sends out you shouldn't be doing this stuff. Yeah. I've gone with a 2.75. Maybe was a 3. I don't know. Yeah, 3 probably is where I did enjoy the coffin drop spot on the table, though. It did look like Darby was slightly not on point when falling off. But yeah,
it was one good spot.
Yeah, but I do agree with you, though. The blood and guts match was average in compared to what we've seen previously. Mentioned Jack Perry's name. Sid says, did you see the picture Drew McIntyre posted next of him and Jack Perry? Drew deleted the picture. He did. But I'll tell you what, to stir the pot a little bit and just to get a good giggle, Drew McIntyre's the man when it comes to socials this year, isn't he?
Dude, he's ruling the roost with everything he's doing, man. Honestly, never knew the guy had game when it comes to social media, but he's honestly, I can see why he beat Chelsea Green for social media wrestler of the year or whatever it was he won at the Slammies. Because yeah, man, dude is honestly knocking it out of the park. I mean, do we know why he deleted it? I mean, like, I get why he deleted it, but like, was he told to delete it or what? Because I thought it was just fire, man. Just like, honestly, a great way to he's essentially used a completely different wrestler in a completely different company to like heighten the intensity of a fight he's going to have with CM Punk. I think it's great.
It's genius. It is absolutely genius. Yeah. I don't think CM Punk's the reason this picture's been deleted. I think what you just said there, another wrestler from another promotion, you're promoting the competition. I think that's the reason why that picture's been deleted. I reckon CM Punk's approved it and went, bygones are bigger bygones. Drew's seen him. Take the picture. Yeah, put it up. Why not? They're working together on this. They know what they're doing. They're going to give us the best match possible. But hey, for us suspending our disbelief feels real, and that's what's fun about it. Keep it like it. And this is the sort of thing that just adds more fuel to the fire. Thankfully, though, that fire's not in the blood and guts match. Roger asks, what is the best blood and guts match ever? For me, I'm going to go with the Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club, I think, which was the second year, I believe, they did it.
Yeah, that was pretty good. What was the first one, though? That was
Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle.
Oh, yeah, no, that was the bad one with the bump, and everyone critiqued the bump off the top of the cage because you could see the rigged stage and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you and go the Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club. From top to start to finish, it's a quality match.
It's a good match one. I would recommend that one indeed. Roger asking, do you think AJ Lee will ever return to WWE? I'm going to say yes. I'm optimistic.
I think the right person has to be on the roster, and I think that person is Cora Jade. I think when Cora Jade comes up to the roster maybe next year, I think if you have some sort of story involving Punk and Cora Jade, because obviously Cora Jade is a big Punk fan, they have a history outside of WWE anyway. Like, I know Jade used to go and visit him on a lot of like signings and all that kind of stuff. I think if you just have AJ Lee come back and you have a Cora Jade versus AJ Lee match, I think that would be killer. Or even better yet, maybe do an apprentice and the master and the apprentice with AJ Lee and Cora Jade, and have them two almost like how AJ Lee used to have Tamina back in the day. And I think have them two run as a tag team or whatever, man. I think it'd be great. But yeah, I think she'll come back as well.
Allegedly, Roxanne Perez has said she's not retiring until she has a match with AJ Lee. So if AJ doesn't come back, Roxanne could be wrestling for as long as Mae Young did. So yeah. Watched the classic Raw earlier on and still Kurt Angle give the Olympic slam to Mae Young. To be fair, hell of a bump for someone that was like in the late 70s. So props to Mae Young for taking it.
Dear. They're built different, apparently, than them 70-year-olds.
Absolutely. Roger says, I would love to see Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa team up to take on Taya Valkyrie, and I imagine that's with Deonna Purrazzo. Would you like to see that? 4 great wrestlers, so why not? Sign me up.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that. It sounds like a great lineup. Although, obviously, Britt and Thunder Rosa have a history against each other, so that'd be interesting dynamic.
Absolutely. Roger says that CM Punk and Drew McIntyre get beer with each other in real life. What's your source, Roger? Where have you seen it? And what bar is it? Because we might want to go there. That will get us over to the States. Right. We've caught up with a lot of the comments. We'll probably wrap things up in a few minutes' time. But I did want to get your thoughts on Bobby Lashley and MVP. Looking likely they're leaving WWE. MVP put a social media post on Friday. Looked like he was leaving. Suggestions are they could be going to AEW to reform some form of business they had in the pandemic that got over really hot with the crowd. Shelton Benjamin is a free agent. Someone they wanted in that group was Ricochet. He's currently a free agent. Of course, the other day, Too Sweet Carl on the show, and he said, well, Leah Rush is also someone that will be available, would be good for the group.
Yeah,
obviously, with his previous times of Bobby Lashley. Is it something that you reckon you could see happening?
We don't normally critique Triple H for many things, but I think this is probably one of the biggest things he's messed up this year. Like, we was having a conversation between us the other day, like, there's many good things Triple H has done this year since obviously January when he fully took over the reins. But letting someone like Bobby Lashley go, I think is so criminal. Like, he hasn't been booked well. Even when he was champion, I don't think he was booked the best. And I don't know. He just always seemed so criminally underused. And like the amount of times I would have said this year and last year that Bobby Lashley can come back. Someone like Bobby Lashley needs to be used more. And it's just got to the point now where I imagine he's probably just sick and tired of not being used. Dude, one company's loss is another company's gain. I think if you take MVP as a mouthpiece, Bobby Lashley is a proper super heavyweight, Shelton Benjamin as that what do they call him? Not vintage. What's the word I'm looking for here? Experienced wrestler. Do you know what I mean? That the grizzled, somebody who's just been around for ages. And then you add someone like Leah Rush and Ricochet in as like youth and speed. Dude, that is a 5-piece that is gonna destroy pro wrestling. Like, my only worry is if they go to AEW. I think that's the problem, because I don't think they'll be used as well as if they went to somewhere like TNA. Bobby going back to TNA makes a hell of a lot more sense. Previous world champion, has history. You bring in MVP, you get Ricochet and Leo Rush in there. That's a 5-piece that will rule TNA.
It's someone, to be fair. I'd love to see Bobby Lashley back in TNA, and to be fair, that group sound would be awesome for TNA as well. But I just wonder at the moment, TNA obviously with their ties with WWE, if he's looking to break away. I don't know. I just kind of feel myself. I know Mustafa Ali and Nick Nemeth are there as well in TNA now, so it kind of defeats the point there. But it's just, is the ceiling big enough currently? They need probably a better TV deal. Probably need other things to go. I mean, MVP was in TNA back in the day as well. So I mean, they all have previous history there. I just feel that, like you said, AEW, they don't always book their monsters the best, like the Brian Cages, the Lance Archers, the ones that you thought were going to be, big deals that were big dudes. But I don't know, I just have a feeling with MVP as the mouthpiece, good support act as well. And, if you can put a good group together, it was just Bobby, MVP, and Shelton, that still would do perfectly fine, I think. And I feel that it would be a big deal in AEW if you can make the 5-piece out of that lot. I mean, goodness, that's your blood and guts team sorted next year. Who are they facing? You know what I mean? So I do think they would do well. I do think they would do good. I don't know. I think it's just time will tell. I think AEW is going to be the landing point now for these guys.
I have a video discussion for you to talk about when we finish, because I have an idea for a video that involves certain people and certain shows, but we'll talk about it after. But yeah, I think that it's just, like I said, I just don't want him to go AEW and just end up like everyone else that's left WWE and gone to AEW and just expecting the world and just not getting there. I mean, you can probably count on one hand the amount of ex-WWE stars that have gone to AEW, supposed to have been in the world title picture because they have that caliber, and they just don't even make it out of catering, essentially. Same cater, different catering, same position. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it has been known to happen, and it has been known to see that some of the top guys just go down the card or go AWOL, like you say. So it is a possibility that it could happen. I would just like to hope that it wouldn't. But I agree with you. If Triple H has dropped the ball on something in the last 2 years, it is Bobby Lashley. I mean, he's not been on either WrestleMania. So, he was on this year's WrestleMania, wasn't he, with Street Profits, but it was not a high-profile match. The year before was the Andre the Giant Battle Royal winner because they couldn't get him on the card. I know he had a match set with Bray Wyatt, and that had to be pulled, but they could have done something alternatively once that was off the table. But I feel that Bobby should be a bit better.
Even on was it the year before when he fought Drew? He was the first match on night 2 or night 1, whenever it was, for the world title. It's like he never. He had his uses. I mean, I tell you what, this actually brings me to a nice point as well. WWE released a statement this year, not they released a statement, but the rumors coming out of WWE is that they're done with Omos. They can't do anything with him. Like they apparently he hasn't wrestled since like April on TV, and he's just been doing house shows, and he's not even doing house shows anymore. And it's like they just don't like this guy. My God, when they actually gave him a microphone and allowed him to talk, his character is so good. I'm not a big fan of big guys. I think they're very limited. But Omos, I think, was quite intriguing. And they're sitting there saying that they're done with him and they don't know what to do with him. You have a developmental show that he can go to and get better. Send him back to NXT. That's what it's there for. Because they're sitting there saying that they give him give him host shows to try and improve and get better in ring. He's a big guy. He's going to have a very limited moveset for what he does. You can't be looking for new creative for him. He's very simple to book, but they're saying, apparently, like I said, the rumor coming out is that they're done with him. They've got really no more creative for him. I imagine he's someone that unfortunately will bring the end of not a release, but maybe his contract won't be renewed. And it's a shame because I think, like I said, I'm not a big guy fan, but I could get behind Omos. The second you gave that guy a microphone, he becomes entertaining. He becomes like, I need to watch this guy because his smack talk was great. And I got none of that up until like the last maybe 3 months of his run, like after MVP. And it was kind of like with MVP, and like he could just absolutely just talk down to people when he was wrestling. And I thought it was highly entertaining. But yeah, apparently going back to NXT isn't a thing for Omos.
Unfortunately not. And obviously Roger asked the question. So Roger, we actually naturally transitioned into your question there, which is quite great to see. For me, not surprised. That's the thing. For me, it wasn't news. It was like I assumed they'd given up on him months ago because he's not been around. Yeah. He wasn't on the showcase of WrestleMania this year. I think he barely got his Rumble spot. So I mean, it felt like he'd been forgotten about, and to a certain degree. I mean, yeah, I think he should be put back to NXT as well. I think there is something you can do with the guy. He isn't the best, but he was getting always better. And like you say, he's a very likable guy. He's quite good on the mic. So I think he should have been given a shot, but it's what it is.
He's a guy that would work best with cruiserweights. And I'm sorry, but NXT is full of them at the minute.
Yeah.
And you've got not Aura Mensa. Who's the North American champion? Obafemi. Yeah, Obafemi, dude, massive guy. Who's he wrestling at the minute? He's wrestling cruiserweights and light heavyweight guys, and he's like dominating and exceeding, and he's making such a good name for himself. You could easily put Omos in that spot. It's not that hard.
It's not that hard indeed. No, I agree. And yeah, throwing cruiserweights around is definitely a fun job you could have going forward. I think it would be a good way to go. Mike says Dominic will turn on Rhea. The question is, do they do the turn at SummerSlam or do they wait a bit longer? I mean, obviously I said earlier in the video, I think it's going to be dragged. I think Mysterio will make a mistake at SummerSlam to cost Rhea. However, I think the turn will come later. And do you agree with that, or do you think that SummerSlam is the right place to pull the trigger?
I think everyone is expecting it to happen at SummerSlam, but now that obviously I've had this conversation, which is why I like talking to you, Steve, because you do change my opinions on stuff. I think they're also going to wait as well. I think they're going to long it out and try and milk it for what it's worth, and I think it will come at a time when people least expect it, because they're always the best times to do these kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So yeah, I agree. I think it's just the things everyone thinks it's going to happen. So Triple H should go, all right, you think it's going to happen? It will happen, but not tonight. And that way you've all got it wrong. So you've all got to watch a bit longer. That's usually the way it goes. Yeah. Roger asking probably the most unfair question of the stream. Who would win in a wrestling match, Steve or NXT? We're never going to find out. We're tag team champions.
Exactly. We're not Marty and Sean, but this is
Oh.
this is a tag team for life. We are Motor City Machine Guns. We are the grizzled young veterans in this case.
Absolutely. You could even say we're a two-man power trip. That's what we are at this point. We're dominating the game. Last one.
Was it that way?
I think so. Yeah. Zane said, I would love to have a real wrestling match. It would be a deathbed match. Zane, power to you, my friend.
Deathbed. A deathbed. What is a deathbed? Or am I just being stupid?
I mean, a death match. I'm aware of a deathbed. I mean, there's a lot of suggestions, Zane. Maybe it's that time. I don't know. We should wrap things up, but Zane goes on with the last comment. And Nick Nath is the wanted man. Odyssey Jones is the forgotten man. Certainly agree with that indeed. But one thing you shouldn't forget to do, ladies and gents, is to like this video. Helps the channel out a long way. All more likes does help the algorithm on YouTube. Leave a comment after we've done the stream as well, just to give something to talk about a bit more pro wrestling. And if you've missed out that you want to discuss, get involved in the comments below and subscribe if you are new here as well. Big thanks to everyone for all your questions and your comments, and a massive thank you to the gentleman sitting next to me. And Nick, Steve, thank you for being here.
Dude, always a pleasure, man. I'm actually glad we had, I know it was me that sprung this one on you and was like, I think we need to talk about these situations because there's a lot of topics to bring up and talk about it. And obviously, the people that do watch these videos, they do have a lot of input as well, and it does help as well. So, yeah, it's always good to do these, man. I'm glad we sat down and done this one.
Absolutely, it's been a lot of fun to discuss with you the potential WrestleMania coming to London, and we've predicted yes, but I don't know if we're 100% confident on that. We're more hope rather than expect. Big thanks to everyone that has been getting involved on this one. I'd say without all you all, we would have been here for about 15 minutes. So just goes to show the power that you all have together. But come and join us again on Tuesday. Will be the official SummerSlam predictions, and we'll juggle into the week as well. Watch along for Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero, the custody of Dominic match. Watch along from SummerSlam 2005. Looking to do that one live, so keep an eye out for that. Take care. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.